I think we're ready to be joined by our special guest, and Andy knows this man well, and we all know him well, Mike Anderson, the head coach of Arkansas. And Coach Anderson, we had a couple of Arkansas fans calling in yesterday talking some serious smack. I'm sure you'd rather not listen to this. They cannot wait for Kentucky. I guess when you've beaten Kentucky 3 straight times, it's hard to believe anyone has done that in recent years, but you can talk a little smack. But games before that, first of all, thanks for being with us.
Well, thanks, Paul, and thanks for having me on. And as you alluded to, we got quite a few more games before we play Kentucky. So our biggest concern right now is the Missouri Tigers coming in here tomorrow night.
Yeah, and that's a program you know pretty well since you were at Missouri before heading to Fayetteville, and I'm sure fans have reminded you of that many, many times. But enough of that. Last year you were in a position that you owned February. Unfortunately, you just didn't own March. Is that part of the message this year to the team? Hey, listen, we beat Kentucky twice last year, but we didn't win the other games?
Well, to me, more importantly, just stay focused on the next task at hand, the things we can control, which will be the next game. And we were a few plays away last year from having a real special year, and we don't want to duplicate that this year. So let's stay into the now, and let's just get better. I like our team right now. I like how they're playing.
Mike, we discussed this earlier on my show, Cat's Corner on ESPNU, and I'm always curious why your style of play initially it seemed more conducive to Bud Walton rather than on the road, and how you were able to sort of solve that and make it a little bit more equitable, that when you take that act on the road, it's similar to what people see in Bud Walton.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things we did, we went and got some better players, you know. It helps when you got players, and I think you got to have players with that mentality that you have. You know, you got to be mentally tough, you got to be physically tough, and you got to be able to make plays. And quite naturally, we were close last year. We didn't make plays. It's a progression, you know, when you come in, and you know, there's a reason why the job was open, number one. So it takes time. It takes patience. It takes patience from a coaching standpoint. And I know the fans, you know, it's what have you done lately, but from a coaching standpoint, the blueprint I use is what we used at Missouri, we used at UAB, and we used at Arkansas. And so now I think we're starting to see some of the results of that.
In a matchup against Kentucky, and I know you got games before that, but just on paper, how does this Arkansas team match up against the size and length of Kentucky?
From a size standpoint, we don't. I mean, when you look at, you know, I think they got 3 or 4 7-footers. Man, I tell you, they're a great team, great basketball team. They have guard play. You got the Harrison twins. You got the Eulis kid. I think he's a big-time player for them. And, of course, Devin Booker, a guy that can knock shots down. And you're talking about they lost one of their better players when you're Porters. He's not even there. So, but when you look at College Stein, he's got 2 years of playing major college basketball, and just seemed like he's all over the place. And their defense, I mean, you got to outrun them. So I guess that's one way you have to do it. You got to outrun them, I guess.
Coach, I know the rest of the league, the other 13 coaches, including you, as well as the rest of college basketball, are getting tired of being asked about Kentucky. But you've been part of some great programs, national championship teams, Final Four teams that have made great runs in March. How good is this Kentucky team in terms of history?
Well, it's a real good basketball team. But you got to remember, the first team I played, you know, with Anthony Davis, I thought that was a great team. I mean, Anthony Davis, you had the Teague kid, Gilchrist. I thought that was a great team. And I think this team here is probably just as good. Maybe not necessarily the seasoning. They don't have the seasoning that team had, but from a talent standpoint, they're very talented.
Mike, when you guys won it in '94 in Charlotte with Nolan Richardson as the head coach, how did that team deal with the expectations of winning a national championship?
Well, they've seen everything through Coach Richardson's eyes. I really believe that. You know, each and every game was a challenge, and we stayed into the now, and that's the same formula that I try to use. Let's control our own destiny. How do you do that? You control each game in front of you, and we had some great leaders on that basketball team. You had Corey Beck, you had Dwight Stewart, and you had some great players, and Scotty Thurman, who was ahead of his time, along with a great player by the name of Corliss Nasty Williams. By the way, we actually are going to hang his banner, hang his jersey up tomorrow night. What a great player from the state of Arkansas that we're going to honor him tomorrow night.
All right, Mike, this is the Paul Finebaum Show. What's a better atmosphere? A basketball game against Kentucky at Bud Walton, or a football game in Fayetteville against, who should I say? Who would you?
Alabama.
Alabama. What's a better atmosphere?
Oh, Bud Walton Arena. I mean, you're talking about Kentucky basketball. I mean, can you imagine, back when I was here with Coach Richardson, it was the prelude to the Super Bowl. And I think just as many people watched the Arkansas-Kentucky game than they watched the Super Bowl. And we had some unbelievable games against Coach Rick Pitino.
And you grew up in Alabama, Coach. I mean, you're never going back there again.
Well, I'll tell you what, basketball has always been something that I've had a passion about, even growing up in the great state of Alabama, football, crazy state, but basketball was something that's always dear to my heart.
Well, no doubt. Coach, always good to visit. Best wishes, and we'll try to, while you're coaching tomorrow night, we'll try to calm your fans down and let them know Missouri is in town as opposed to that Kentucky game in 2 weeks.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Always good to see you, Coach Anderson.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
Mike Anderson.